Okay. Hello, hello, hello. We are starting to populate this event. This is awesome. Um, welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Jonathan Pogash, and this is the New York Cocktail Expo, How to Make Cocktails. Cheers, everyone. I've started. I don't know if you've started yet, but I'm definitely starting. As we kind of populate our event today, I'd love to know, before we even get started with anything, where everybody is from and what they're drinking right now. So if you want to go ahead and throw that in the chat button, in the chat function, that'll be the very first thing that we do today. Tell me if you're drinking anything. Hopefully you're drinking something, and where you're from. And I'd love to see it, and I'd love to know. I'm drinking, folks, the smoked cinnamon old, try saying that 5 times fast. The smoked cinnamon old fashioned with Uncle Nearest whiskey. Oh my gosh, mwah. So good. Okay, Sixto Acosta, he's drinking, you're drinking New York City water. Great. Oh, New York City, you're from New York City water, but that's New York City water. Cheers to you, Michael Myers, great name. Cheers to you, you're watching from Pennsylvania and you're drinking a beer with bitters. Nice. And VC from Vermont, a white Negroni. Melinda Coffee, cheers to you, Melinda. Cheers to you, Joshua. Hi from Connecticut. Oh, good, you're making the Twinkle drink. We're gonna make the Twinkle drink in a second. And Etienne from Kentucky, you're drinking Izzy sparkling pomegranate water, which is very delicious. Cheers to you, Paul. You're drinking a dirty martini. Kevin, cheers to you from Lynchburg, drinking water. Great. I also have my water here. Yes. Cheers to you, LJ from New Orleans. You're drinking a Woodford Old Fashioned. Louisville, Kentucky, Andy, you're also drinking an Old Fashioned with Booker's. Great. Wonderful whiskey selections here. And Margarita, cheers to you from Milford. You're drinking Bailey's. Bailey's on the rocks or Bailey's chilled with no ice? Maybe you can specify. Erica from Maryland, hello. Thank you for joining. You're drinking ginger beer. Cheers, Danny from Fort Collins, Colorado, drinking a mocktail with rubbed syrup and bitters. Ooh, very, very unique and creative. Cheers to you, Angelique from Roseville, California. Danny is drinking rhubarb. Oh, yeah, something with rhubarb. And Jim from Louis, Delaware. And Margarita, oh, with ice. Okay, good. The Bailey's is with ice. And Jim, oh, need to know more about the smoked cinnamon old fashioned. Beautiful, because that is the first cocktail that we're going to do. Cheers. I'm going to have a little sip. So good. And I'm going to walk you guys through a couple of different cocktails today. And we're also going to talk about the lovely spirit selection that we have, some of our partner spirit brands for the New York Cocktail Expo, how to make cocktails. For those of you who have just joined, thank you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Jonathan Pogash, and I am founder and owner of The Cocktail Guru. Oh, we've got some more here. Oh, good. Cheers to you, Donna. And cheers to you, Erin from Chicago, a coquito. Amazing. Is that a homemade family recipe coquito, or is it one of the store-bought coquitos? Cheers to you, Andrew, ex-New Yorker from Pleasanton, California, Bay Area. Yep. You're going to make something later, looking for inspiration. Good. Hopefully I'll give you some inspiration. Oh, Erin, homemade coquito. I wish I could taste it. I'm really craving a good coquito. And Ariel from Chicago. This is great. So like I was telling you before, my name is Jonathan Pogash, and I'm founder and owner of The Cocktail Guru. Welcome to the New York Cocktail Expo. Ladies and gentlemen, this is how to make cocktails. What are we going to do today? We're going to sprinkle in a little cocktail history, some knowledge, some cocktail technique using bar tools, and make a few different cocktails, some of my favorites, with maybe a little bit of a seasonal holiday inspiration. How about that? But there are a couple of other things happening this week because it happens to be the New York Cocktail Expo online week. You can find many, many free webinars over at the website, New York Cocktail or nycocktailexpo.com/webinars. For example, learn to make tropical cocktails tomorrow with the Escape to the Tropics Tiki webinar. And how to make the best Manhattan in Manhattan is December 5th with Melinda Maddox of Old Elk Distillery. This is amazing. So much stuff happening. But okay, so before we go any further and make this first cocktail, just a little background on myself. So I am founder and owner of The Cocktail Guru, a beverage consulting company. We have changed since the pandemic. Hopefully you all are safe and sound and healthy, first and foremost. I am here from a real live bar. Remember when we could go to bars and converse with bartenders? Yes, it will be coming back. We will come back stronger than ever, very, very soon. But I am here in Southeast Massachusetts, and that's where I live right now. We are in New Bedford, Massachusetts, actually, whaling capital of the world. Not anymore, but it was. It's where Herman Melville wrote Moby Dick, believe it or not, folks. And also most of the scallops that you get around the world are from here. But I digress. All I wanted to do after I graduated college, I was a theater major. I wanted to move to New York City to become an actor. And it was my father who said, well, Jonathan, you should get a job in a bar. Great, thanks, Dad. Thanks for the inspiration. Thanks for having confidence in your son. But he was right, so I decided to get a job. I started off as a bar back, which is the busboy, of course, or busser for the bartender, at a little place called the Russian Tea Room. Who's heard of the Russian Tea Room before? Yes, I'm sure you have. And feel free to keep corresponding on the chat. I'm going to be moderating and monitoring the chat. And I love to make these sorts of things very interactive and fun. So the Russian Tea Room was my first bar gig. I worked my way up to become a bartender there. I was still auditioning. And actually, ladies and gentlemen, you may recognize me, huh? Maybe from a circa 2003 national network Verizon wireless commercial. Yeah, exactly. See, you knew me from somewhere. I could tell. I could see it on your faces. I'm imagining your faces. And you're like, wow, really? That guy? I was in the commercial with the Can You Hear Me Now guy, which was great. So I made a boatload of cash and I quit my bartending job. And I thought, okay, I wouldn't have to audition anymore. But, you know, that money lasted a few months. And then I went back into the industry, bartending. But something changed inside of me. I wasn't sort of slinging drinks just to get by before. Yeah, thank you. Melinda says she knows that she thought I looked familiar. And Etienne also says that they know that's where they know me from. Yes, exactly. So, and then where was I, folks? I'm talking a mile a minute here. So then I went back to the industry. I started bartending again, and that's when I turned into a mixologist. I like to think. I was paying attention. I was reading cocktail books. I was designing my own drink menus and recipes, training staff at new bars, and that's when I created the Cocktail Guru as a little side hustle. And it kind of grew and grew and grew and grew. And it was my wife, then fiance. We moved in together. She says, well, Jonathan, you're coming home at 5 in the morning. Let's cut that out and expand your consulting company. So I took the Cocktail Guru full time. We got married. We moved to Southeast Massachusetts. We have 2 kids. Benjamin is 9, our son, and Juniper, our daughter. Oh, Juniper. Oh, she's 7. Can I get a collective? I can. Again, I'm imagining that is what you are saying. Thank you, Etienne. Amazing. Thanks, guys. Thank you. Really. Thank you very much. But seriously, though, kids are amazing, right? So moved up here, expanded my consulting business, went international. I have many people who consult for me as well. And my father actually retired from his job many years ago, joined my consulting team. He's amazing. He's also been in the business for many years, almost 50 years. And then, of course, what happened in March? Well, the pandemic hit and we completely pivoted the company. So now all we do are virtual corporate mixology classes. Also, it doesn't have to be corporate, can be private parties, but that's what we do. And it's been absolutely amazing. And I'm actually busier than ever, which blows my mind. And we also make these, oh, here we go. We also make these cocktail kits, just a little shameless plug, that you can order for your events too, delivered right to your home. So feel free to email me and follow me on social media at The Cocktail Guru. And you can get in touch if you want any more information. Make sure to click and follow me on that too, on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, anything you'd like. Okay, so yeah, that's a little bit about me, but I want to go ahead and start to make this cocktail. I'm going to make the smoked cinnamon old fashioned cocktail first, which I have right here, but I'm going to actually make it for you. But before we do that, I just want to talk briefly about our spirit, our highlighted spirit for this cocktail is Uncle Nearest. And I'm actually using their 1856, which is 100 proof. Oh, 50% alcohol. It's pretty high up there. And just a little background on Uncle Nearest. I don't know if you all know the story of Uncle Nearest, but it's a Tennessee whiskey headquartered in Nashville. And the whiskey is actually named for Nathaniel Nearest Green, who is the one who literally taught a young Jack Daniels how to distill. It's crazy. This story is amazing. He was a former enslaved man, and he worked his way up and became a master distiller. And today, the company is actually an all minority led business, which is amazing. And it also employs the first known African-American master blender. Actually, she is the great-great-granddaughter of Nathaniel Green. Her name is Victoria Edie Butler. And it's an amazing product. And I'm so happy to have it here. It's, the mash bill, in fact, is about 90% corn and rye, and then 10% wheat and some other grains, malted barley as well. So I'm going to give this a little bit of a taste. Hold on one second. So that we can kind of taste it together. Okay, here we go. So, oh yes, good. Love the Uncle. The 1884 did very well last night in the old-fashioned competition, Andrew says. Great. Yes, they also have another bottling called the 1884. A little lower proof, 90 proof, I believe. Okay, so the nose, I get some really bold citrus in the nose, a little bit of spice. I'm going to just give it a little bit of a taste. How about that? This is what we do. I always taste my spirits before I make cocktails with them. And I want to make sure that the spirit tastes good on its own before I make cocktails with it, because I won't use a product that doesn't stand the test of time on its own, okay? That does not have the backbone. Let's give it a little taste, shall we? It's got some really lovely heat because, of course, it is 100 proof or 50% alcohol, but it's got that tart orange burst. It's like a burst of caramelized orange and a burst of citrus zest and a little touch of vanilla and some spice. Just a sprinkle of baking spices in there too. And that is lovely. And you can tell that something like this will work really well in a cocktail. Okay, I'm just going to put this aside and we're going to go ahead and make this smoked cinnamon old fashioned. So number one, here's the first thing to do, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you following along. Go ahead and take your rocks glass or old fashioned glass, which is what this is, and we're going to smoke this glass with cinnamon. For those who may not know, cinnamon is from a tree. It is a tree bark, and it is flammable. So you can actually light it on fire and smoke things. I kind of like lighting things on fire in general, which you'll probably realize by the time this class is done. These are our little Cocktail Guru Garnish packs, which we send out with our kits. And I have a cinnamon stick right over here, and I have my lighter. So check this out. It might take a little while for it to start smoking, but it will start smoking after, a little while. There we go. You can already start to see the edges start to char a little bit. And that's really what you want. And then once it starts to smoke, then it will be ready to place inside of your glass. Okay, so we're just gonna, you see the flame there? Yeah, it's actually on fire, which is great. There we go, it is smoking a little bit. Yeah. Here we go. All right, well, it is, it is smoking. Don't you worry. Okay, I might need a little refill on the propane in this one. It is smoking, so what I'm going to do is actually take it and place it inside my glass and allow this glass to smoke. If you have something to put on top of that, that would actually be ideal. And yeah, what am I going to put on? Here we go. Fortunately, I am in a real bar, which actually happens to also be a coffee shop during the day. So I've got a little coffee plate, and I'm just going to place that right on top, just like that. See? There we go. My glass is smoking with the cinnamon stick in it. And now what I'm going to do is build my cocktail in my mixing glass. So of course, we know that we either shake a cocktail or we stir a cocktail or we build a cocktail. This is a stirred cocktail. Old fashions should be stirred. And I'll go over shaking versus stirring and why we do it in a second. And I'll also talk about the history of the old fashioned, which is really cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to actually tilt this a little down, and I'm going to start building this cocktail. So first of all, let's go ahead and take our Uncle Nearest 1856, and we are going to do 2.5 ounces into our mixing glass, just like that. There we go. This is a really nice Japanese etched mixing glass. If you have just a pint glass, that'll work too. If you don't have a pint glass, that is okay as well. Don't you worry. You can use a regular glass. I won't judge. I'm here. I'm still here. You just kind of see half my face. And now we're going to add cinnamon syrup, which I have over here. And there are a couple of companies out there that make really nice craft cinnamon syrups. You can also make it at home if you just make simple syrup, which is equal parts sugar and water, over the stovetop. Throw in a few cinnamon sticks and let it simmer for about 10 minutes. Then cut the heat off once the sugar has dissolved. And then let those cinnamon sticks kind of sit there for 20 to 30 minutes. And you get a really nice cinnamon syrup. It will probably be a little lighter than this. This is actually my good friends, Trader Tiki. They make some really interesting syrups. So this is the cinnamon syrup that they have. Okay, let's go ahead and do 1/2 ounce of cinnamon syrup. So traditionally, an old fashioned has simple syrup. And that's what this is. This is a cinnamon syrup. So we're kind of adding a little bit of a wintry holiday feel to this cocktail. Okay, so now as my bitters element, so normally we would use something like Angostura Bitters in our old fashioned, but I am on a huge Underberg kick, which is, it is Czech and from the Czech Republic, and it is, I'm sorry, it's from Germany, it's German, and they are bitters. So bitters originally were created for medicinal purposes, and I'll also go into the story of bitters in just a second. We actually, in the biz, in the industry, we do this as a shot, and that's really what it's meant for. You kind of do it to settle your stomach after a big meal. We are having all of these big giant meals with the holidays coming up, right? Okay, I'm gonna add a couple of dashes of this. It kind of comes out a little quicker than a regular Angostura bottle. Lovely, and that's it. That's it. It's just those three. Now there are a couple of different types of old fashions, right? You may have had a muddled old fashioned, perhaps, which is the cherry and the orange and the sugar cube muddled, and that's kind of a newer version of an old fashioned, like post-prohibition, even further, probably like Mad Men era, 60s, 70s. But the original pre-prohibition old fashioned is a stirred cocktail. So now we'll go ahead and add ice, and I'll take my bar spoon. This is a cool pineapple bar spoon. Hospitality, right, ladies and gentlemen? Oh, look at that. We've got some people raising hand. Oh, I'm sorry. I have not been I should be following this at the same time. Okay, good. Deborah loves the smoking of the old fashioned. Thank you. And Andrew bought a stainless steel mixing glass after the bottom fell off of my nice Japanese style glass one. They have been known to have the bottom fall off, which is kind of nutty, like this bottom part. And Holly never thought of Underberg as a bitter, just shots. Well, yes, you're doing a shot of bitters, basically. Okay, but we have a couple of people who've raised their hands in the Q&A. What is the name of the bitter? Underberg. Underberg. You can find them online, I think. I have, believe it or not, I've kind of cleared them out online. I think I'm the one who's been buying most of them for our cocktail kits. And okay, is there good? Okay, so that was the one Q&A. Save those caps for prizes. That's right. That's right. I forget about that. Okay, so we're gonna stir this, and we stir for about 16 to 20 Mississippis. I kind of count in my head: 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. And we want that ice to activate. And what does ice do to a cocktail? It creates water. It adds water because all drinks must have a certain amount of water, but it also will chill the cocktail down and create the proper temperature for the cocktail. When we shake a cocktail, we shake for half the time. Okay, and the next cocktail will be a shaken cocktail. So that's about right. And it's okay. It's just me. I'm going to give it a little taste. And Etienne says that it's blasphemous right now, but if we don't care for cinnamon, is there a good substitute? Not a huge cinnamon fan. Yes, 100%. Just regular simple syrup, sugar and water. You can do honey syrup, maple syrup. So with honey syrup, you take regular honey and dilute it with a little bit of warm water, equal parts, and you've got honey syrup, or honey water, a lot of times people call it. And maple syrup at this time of the year. Beautiful, beautiful old fashioned. But yes, if you're not a cinnamon fan, don't worry about that. Okay, here we go. So let's take our smoked glass. Oh yeah. Now that glass is nicely smoked with cinnamon. I'm going to add ice to this now. And strain the cocktail out directly into the glass over the ice, just like that. And Andrew says, yes, Demerara syrup. Absolutely, you can use Demerara syrup. So normally simple syrup is white sugar with water, but you can use a sugar in the raw, which is a turbinado sugar, or Demerara sugar, which is similar to a sugar in the raw, and do equal parts as well. Angelique says, hey, that's a really, really great tip, Angelique. Thank you for saying that. You can infuse the honey on a windowsill for 30 days with herbs. There you go. That's awesome. If you're infusing a honey syrup, which you've already mixed with water, you'll want to keep it in the refrigerator. Once you add water to it, it will start to spoil much quicker than honey. But if you're just using straight honey and infusing them with the herbs, 100% you can let that sit out for about 30 days. That is a great tip. Okay, now garnish, right? Well, we've already done the cinnamon. I'm actually just going to take that piece of smoked cinnamon, put that right into my glass, and we're going to do a flamed orange peel. All right, this is great. Here we go. And check this out. Check this out, friends. So we're going to take our orange. I've already created a little bit of a base right over here. And I like to cut from the top all the way down to the very bottom so we have a nice wide swath. Okay. There we go. Beautiful. All of the flavor is right here on the skin, right? And it's all about surface area when you're doing your peels, your twists. And I'm not a huge fan of the twirly twists, you know, on a martini or on any kind of cocktail. It looks pretty, but it does not necessarily add the right amount of flavor, right? And really all we want is flavor. Flavor Town. Oh. Okay. I believe my lighter is done. Look at that. Brings back memories. Anyone been to the Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino in Las Vegas? I hope to be back there very soon. But fortunately, in my trusty Cocktail Guru Garnish pack, I do have matches. Matches are actually better to use when you're smoking things like fruit, the zest, which is obviously flammable, because it won't necessarily impart any flavor. It's possible that the lighter could impart flavor. Okay, here we go. So here's the technique, folks. Ready? So first of all, we need to light it. Let's hope that sticks. Okay, good. So now I will take my orange peel and just warm up the outside. I'll heat up the outside here. Okay. And what I'm doing is I'm priming it. Then I'm going to angle it over the drink. Hold on. Angle it over the drink and squeeze. Watch. Whoa, did you get that? Hopefully you got that. And I rub it around the rim and I drop it in. Like I said, right? The oil is flammable. So you can do this fun flamed orange peel. And it's actually one of our mentors in the industry, Dale DeGroff, who kind of reintroduced flaming orange peels in his cocktails when he worked at the Rainbow Room and Windows on the World in New York City back in the 80s. He is said to have popularized the Cosmopolitan cocktail. Okay, so you obviously get that fresh orange zest right at the beginning there. And we'll give it a little taste. It's nicely balanced. The Uncle Nearest, 1856, great backbone, great base for an old fashioned. Touch of cinnamon, not too strong cinnamon flavor. And the orange. Holly asks a question, Cassia versus Ceylon. Either one. They're very interesting to compare the two, slight differences. But yeah, either one is what I say, or a combination of the two. Angelique asks, do you ever infuse vinegars or Oxymels for my cocktails? I love fire cider and Bloody Marys. I have on occasion infused vinegars with fruit mostly, and I've created shrubs. For those of you who may not know, a shrub is a drinking vinegar, basically, and is a traditional pre-colonial and colonial era drink. Especially in New England, we used to drink shrubs quite often. And it's great. It's vinegar, some sort of a fruit, and sugar, basically. Sometimes a little water. Great to actually make it this time of year. That's what shrubs are for. It's for the winter time when it starts to get cold. Preserved drinks, right? I'm gonna take another sip of this. That's great, folks. So I wanted to just kind of sprinkle in a little bit of history, and I also have some cocktail trivia. Yes, cocktail trivia. Who likes trivia? Who is competitive? Who wants to?
I'm not sure I understand.
Oh, Siri is actually answering me. She says she's not sure she understands. Don't worry, Siri. We are going to do some cocktail trivia. Hilarious. Siri wants, I know, quiet, Siri. She wants to participate. She's probably already drunk. Siri, are you drunk? Hey, Siri. Are you drunk?
I don't have an answer for that. Is there something else I can help with?
There we go. Answer for it. She did not black out, but she will. Okay, that's funny. So a little bit of cocktail history. So the old fashioned, ladies and gentlemen, has its roots in the early 1800s, actually probably before that. And ladies and gentlemen, it really goes back to the original definition of the word cocktail. And for those of you who don't know, the very first time the word cocktail was mentioned in print was in 1803. And that is a very important year. And then the first time it was defined in print was in 1806, actually an upstate New York newspaper called the Balance and Columbian Repository from Albany, New York. It's a political newspaper, and the editor had an article and was writing about what political candidates were drinking at that time. And it was like cocktail, beer, ale. So someone wrote in the next week and wanted to know what the definition of the word cocktail was, because they had never heard it before. And then the editor wrote back the next week and said, a cocktail is a stimulating liquor composed of spirit of any kind, sugar, water, and bitters. It is vulgarly called a bittered sling. Okay, so we have families of cocktails and categories of drinks. And in colonial America, punches and slings ruled. Okay, a punch, it's not sort of the punch we may know with artificial ingredients. A punch was just spirit, spice, sugar, water, bitters. 5 ingredients. Ponch, P-O-N-C-H, is a Hindi word for the number 5. Traditionally 5 ingredients in a punch. But a sling was basically just, more often than not, whiskey with water and sugar. That's it. Very popular drink. People would come up to the bar and say, I'd like a whiskey sling. I'd like a ale sling, even with ale. And what we started doing is adding bitters to cocktail. And adding a bitters ingredient or bitters to a sling is what constitutes and changes it into a cocktail. Okay, so that is what a cocktail is. And it's crazy to think about, because what is a cocktail today? Well, we say we're going out for cocktails if we're having a glass of wine. We say we're going out for cocktails for a beer, for a martini. Anything is a cocktail today. But keeping in mind this original definition of the word cocktail is really, really cool. Oh, we might have another Q&A. Oh, Simon Difford. Andrew says Simon Difford, who's a really great writer and mixologist from the UK. He has the Difford's Guide, which is a really cool publication. Uses both bourbon and rye in his old-fashioned recipe. Thoughts? Well, that is really interesting. Yeah, why not? You know, bourbon has a different mash bill and rye, corn content versus rye, which has a higher rye content, obviously. To be called bourbon, it has to have at least 51% corn. To be called rye, it has to have at least 51% rye. And the flavor profile difference, I like to think of it as like the difference between cornbread and rye bread. Cornbread's a touch sweeter, bourbon. Rye bread is a touch spicier, rye whiskey. Combining the two will make a really nicely balanced old fashioned. Absolutely. Oh yes, Angelique says yum bitters. Also switchel. Yes, also switchel is also a vinegar based a drinking vinegar. Apple cider, I believe. Apple. Man, it's been a long time since I've talked about shrubs and switchels. That could be an entire class on its own, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so going back to the old fashioned. So it fast forward. So now we're early 1800s, right? People were ordering a whiskey sling, right? And that was a cocktail, okay? And fast forward to Kentucky, okay? Louisville. Who's been to the Pendennis Club? There was someone here from Louisville. Who's been to the Pendennis Club in Louisville, Kentucky. They are supposedly the inventors of the old-fashioned cocktail, okay? Now, ladies and gentlemen, the original definition of the word cocktail sounds very close, almost identical to the old-fashioned. It is an old-fashioned, right? Yes, but here's what happened. Throughout the years, people were ordering this drink as a cocktail. They would say, I want a whiskey cocktail. I want a gin cocktail. I want a rum cocktail. And they knew that it was this formula, right? Spirit, sugar, water, bitters. We think that it sort of started becoming out of fashion a little bit once the 1870s, 1880s came around. And then it wasn't until the Pendennis Club, they started realizing people were coming in asking for a very specific type of drink. Oftentimes their guests would come in and say, do you recall those old cocktails, those cocktails from yesteryear? Could I have one of those old-fashioned style whiskey cocktails? One of those old-fashioned cocktails, an old-fashioned? And they just basically put the cocktail on their menu as an old-fashioned, okay? It is really actually an old-fashioned whiskey cocktail or an old-fashioned cocktail, and they ran with it. So actually they did put that name to it, the old-fashioned, but they didn't actually invent the old-fashioned. It was in the 1700s that drink was actually created, and they popularized it. So that is a really, I love that little story. Okay, I'm gonna drink my water. Okay, hey, okay, good. Let's do some cocktail trivia. Who's ready? We're gonna use the chat, and whoever answers first will get, I don't know, a thumbs up or a high five from me. So let's go ahead and, okay, here is some trivia. Good, all right. Ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Trivia question numero uno. How many mint juleps are said to be consumed each year at the Kentucky Derby? Closest answer wins in the chat. How many mint juleps are said to be consumed each year at the Kentucky Derby? All right, here we go. VC says 2,000. Jim says 200,000. Deborah, 200,000. Ella says 1 million. Holly says 5,000. Vicky says 400,000. Let's see who's the closest here. Oh my goodness. Melinda said 120,000. You are on it. It is 120,000. Congratulations. You get a, what do you get from me? Where's the little high? I want to give you a little high five. Well, yeah, I'm going to give you a high five and a thumbs up. Okay, cool. Good. That is awesome. Yes, obviously we didn't have the Kentucky Derby this year. They delayed it until September, I think. But mint juleps were not served there. But hopefully next year that will be the case. And someone asked, what is my favorite? It's back here somewhere. What's my favorite? Well, what is my favorite bourbon in an old fashioned? Yes, traditionally an old fashioned will have bourbon or rye. But I'm actually, these days, I'm partial to this Tennessee whiskey, Uncle Nearest 1856. Other than that, there are some really, really great brands out there. I actually like doing Scotch whiskey old fashions as well, and Japanese whiskey, which is kind of hot these days, or was. Oh, Etienne says didn't even feel like Derby this year. Forgot all about it when it came around. I know, really. But I've been doing these trivia questions throughout since March, so it is top of mind for me. Okay, here's another little fun trivia question. Okay. Name the main character. Okay, this one is worth 20 points because it's easy for me. Name the main character in Sex and the City. What is the main character's name in Sex and the City? Full name, please. Full name. Aaron says Carrie Bradshaw. Yes, it is Carrie Bradshaw. And follow-up question, what is the cocktail that the show Sex and the City made popular, even more popular? Yes, Doreen got it, Cosmopolitan. And what's fun is this story of the Cosmopolitan is really fun and unique. And a lot of people think that Del de Groff invented the Cosmopolitan cocktail. He's the guy I talked about earlier, flamed orange peel. But actually, the drink itself was probably invented. There's still some discussion. Probably invented by a guy called Toby Giacchini, another bartender in New York City in the 1980s. But there was also a woman in Florida who was a bartender who was asked by a particular vodka company that was coming out with a citrus vodka to create a signature cocktail that was pink and great for women. And so she did the citron vodka, roses, lime juice, cranberry juice, and triple sec, and called it a Cosmopolitan. But we think it kind of probably originated more in New York, in the New York area. But Dale DeGroff is the one who popularized it because he served it as a signature cocktail at the Rainbow Room in New York City in the late 80s. And he did fresh lime juice, so no roses lime juice. I'm sorry for those of you who like roses lime juice. It is good for one thing and one thing only, and that is cleaning out your clogged drains at home. Just pour it right down the drain, and it does wonders. Nothing beats fresh juices, and that's really where we come from now in the cocktail world. Fresh ingredients, homemade ingredients, great quality spirits. That really rules the mixology world. So Dale DeGroff was making these Cosmopolitan cocktails on one particular night in the late 80s. It was a Grammy Award post party at the Rainbow Room, and in walks Madonna and her entourage. Oh my goodness, walking around, having cocktails. They're all ordering Cosmos, drinking this pink drink. Paparazzi are taking photos. It goes viral, basically, whatever viral meant in the 1980s. And it was all over. And that really, then I think actually the Sex and the City TV show picked it up. So that's a little Cosmo story. Let's go ahead and make another cocktail, shall we? Yes, please. This one is my Holiday Twinkle. And it utilizes a really cool product called Empress 1908 Gin. I don't know if you all are familiar with this or if you've seen it before. Where are you? There you are. But I'm going to actually open it up and I'm going to talk about it for a quick second before we go ahead and make this cocktail. So the inspiration for this gin is the Fairmont Empress Hotel in Victoria, British Columbia, Canada. I don't know if anyone's been there before. I have not been there. I'm looking forward to going there sometime soon. It was built in 1908, which is why this is called Empress 1908. Gin, of course, to be called gin, must have what? That's a little trivia question. It must have what to be called gin in it? Exactly. Yes, Holly said juniper, juniper. What is Jonathan's daughter's name? Thank you. You all know it already. Yes, juniper. But gin oftentimes, more often than not, pretty much all the time, has other botanicals in it, right? Not just juniper. And a lot of gins scale down the juniper flavor, mainly for Americans because we're not too keen on that high juniper content. And that is what we would call a New Western style gin, as opposed to the London dry gins. Let's see, I've got a couple back here. Those are higher in juniper content traditionally, and then lower juniper plus other interesting funky botanicals. So a couple of the funky ingredients in here: black tea and butterfly pea flower. Now, butterfly pea flower is the trick here. And I'm going to take another little glass over here and pour this out. And if you see, it's this really cool, what would you call it? Well, it's like an indigo. I think that's what we would call it. Like an indigo blue, okay? Really cool. But the butterfly pea flower actually has a really interesting chemical reaction. Butterfly pea flower is in the violet family. And it is actually one of the only natural blue colors in the world, in the universe. Well, in the world. I don't know about the universe, but in the world. And so first of all, I'm going to taste this, and then I'm going to show you what happens to it. Okay, so you get this really nice, balanced botanical citrus floral notes, okay? Give it a little taste. It is actually very light and refreshing, and you can tell it would work really well in a really nice highball style cocktails. Now, here's what happens once you add any kind of, well, you'll see. So I have my lime. I'm just going to cut my lime in half here. Okay. And I don't know if you can see this. Well, I'm going to lift this up so that you can see it a little better. We're going to add some citrus fruit. Okay. And I think you can see that reaction, right? It turns purple. Isn't that cool? So cool. I love that. And so if the other ingredients have any sort of acid component, even tonic water has acid, it will turn that really nice, beautiful, light purple, sometimes pink color. Yeah, isn't that cool, guys? Yes, it's the pH. Exactly. Andrew says the color is ready for an aviation. Absolutely. Very, very ready for an aviation cocktail. Absolutely. Okay, so let's make the Holiday Twinkle. I love this time of year. I don't know if you've noticed this. Can you all see this? Maybe. Yeah, you can. I've got a poinsettia, however you say it. It was already here. I didn't bring it in. Like I said, this is a coffee shop during the day, and it was a bar up until the pandemic, and they have not been able to reopen as a bar. So I've been, they're kindly allowing me to use this. Oh, this is real, guys. This is 100% real. Don't worry. You can buy the pea flower powder on Rishi online. Yes, you can buy pea flower powder, pea flower powder. Just kidding. Yeah, it's kind of getting to me. I haven't had dinner yet. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's just make it. All right, shall we? So I have my shaker here. This is called a Boston shaker, the mixing glass and the mixing tin, excuse me. And we're going to shake this cocktail. So why do we shake a cocktail versus stir a cocktail? So we shake a cocktail that includes any kind of citrus fruit, dairy product, anything that needs to be emulsified. And then the general rule when we stir a cocktail is that it will contain all alcoholic ingredients. But there are some exceptions to those rules, okay? The one exception to the stirred cocktail rule is, in my opinion, the martini. So I really like a martini shaken, not stirred. Pogash, Jonathan Pogash is my name. Silliness is what tends to happen. But yeah, what happens when you stir a cocktail? Well, it really comes down to texture. It lays a little differently on your tongue. It's a little thicker. The texture is different. It should have the same amount of water and have the same temperature as a shaken cocktail. You may think that your shaken cocktail has more water in it, but it really is just the way that your brain is reacting to the tongue and the liquid, okay? So the martini is the exception to the stirred rule. An old-fashioned should be always stirred. Always stirred. A Manhattan, to me, always stirred. Some places shake a Manhattan. Please don't shake your Manhattan. Stir it. A Negroni, all alcoholic ingredients. Stir your Negroni. Okay, here we go. So I'm just going to lower this. Thanks, Anita. Anita gets me. Anita gets me. She gets the humor. Okay, so we'll go ahead and take our Empress 1908. Yes, this is also inspired by Tea Time at the Empress Hotel. Fairmont Empress Fairmont. A question, shake or stir a margarita on the rock? Shake your margaritas, please, because it does have citrus fruit. So shake your margaritas and then strain it over fresh ice. Now, okay, this brings up a good point. You may have had margaritas in the past at restaurants where they'll shake it and then they'll pour it into your rocks glass, right? Why would we not want to do that? Because the ice that we've shaken with is called, in the industry, dirty ice, okay? That ice has already started to dilute and will dilute quicker, much, much quicker in a glass than fresh ice, okay? So I always shake my drink, and if I'm serving it on the rocks, I will strain it over fresh ice. Please always try to do that. All right, so here we go. We're going to get the recipe back up here. 2 ounces of my Empress gin right into my mixing glass. I'm building my drink first into the mixing glass, folks. And if you don't have a glass and tin, which is the Boston shaker, maybe you have a tin on tin, which is two tins, a big one and a small one. Or maybe you have what's called a cobbler shaker, which is a 3-piece. It's like the big tin with a top and then another little cap and the built-in strainer. Those are okay. They're not my favorite, but it's okay. Now we're going to do honey syrup. Again, you can make honey syrup at home, or this is actually a company called Cheeky. They make really cool syrups, and we use them for all of our cocktail kits. This is their honey syrup. If you're making it at home, I do equal parts honey and water. And we're doing 1 ounce of honey syrup into our glass. There we go. Now we do some fresh lime juice And we're going to do 3/4 of an ounce of fresh lime juice. There we go. And now we'll give it a shake. So let's go ahead and give this a nice shake. And you'll see, first of all, we want to fill our glass all the way to the top with ice, because the more room ice has to move around, the more diluted your drink will be. And we want the drink to be perfectly balanced. It's kind of, it kind of blows your mind when you think of it. So less ice, your drink will be more watered down. More ice, balanced, chilled, less watered down. So now we pop the tin on top, smack it, flip it around, make sure the glass is on top. That's because if the seal starts to break loose, the liquid will go on you or me, behind me. If it's this way, it'll go not on you, but on my computer. When we shake it awake, don't rock it to sleep, and shake it for a good 8 Mississippis. So I would like for you all to count with me, number 1. Number 2, also take note of my shaker face, because we must have a really pleasant, smiling shaker face. All right? Ready, set, let's count. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi, 6 Mississippi, 7 Mississippi, 8 Mississippi. All right, look at that. It has its really nice light purpley color. Separate the shaker. This takes a little bit of practice, separating the shaker, if you're following along at home. Oh, thanks. Angelique says so pretty. Thank you. And I have my strainer, and I have some lovely cocktail glasses here. So I get my pick. I'm actually going to use one of these with this kind of nice base. So this is sometimes called a cocktail coupe. So we'll just strain that out just like that. Lovely. And of course, a cocktail is not complete without garnish. Oh, actually, okay, here's a couple of different ways of serving this cocktail, believe it or not. As a martini in a martini glass, or, hey, drum roll, please. You can easily serve it as a highball, as a tonic style cocktail, which I'm going to do. And full disclosure, that is the way that it was supposed to be done. We'll just add that. Nobody, you're not watching, right? No, nobody's watching. Nobody sees. So we'll just strain that over the ice. And I'm going to top it off with some tonic water, a good quality tonic water like this one, Fever Tree or Q Tonic. And there you go, just top it off. So it's almost like a cross between a gin sour as well as a gin and tonic. Give this a little bit of a stir and garnish, right? So to me, garnish not only needs to make the drink look nice, but also add a wanted and pleasant flavor. Yes, the tonic should be chilled. Valentine is asking me. 100%. It was right in the refrigerator before. I have a dehydrated citrus wheel that I'm just going to place on top, just like that. So you get that burst of dried citrus at first, right? And I'm gonna give it a little sip. Okay, we'll kind of I'll describe it for you. It is light, just a touch bitter from the tonic water, but everything else works really well. I taste the honey. I taste the Empress gin. I taste the citrus. It's a really nicely balanced cocktail. It is delicious. It is very delicious, in fact. And I wish you guys can taste it. And maybe maybe you're making it at home, or maybe you will make it at home. Maybe this will inspire you to make it at home. I really hope it does. Oh, I wanted to quickly mention a little story. Well, actually, before that, in 2011, I had the honor of working on this book, the Mr. Boston Bartender's Guide. I don't know if you all are familiar with it, but it is an iconic cocktail book that dates back to the 1930s. They asked me to do the 75th anniversary edition, which is what this is, 75th anniversary edition in 2011. I tore the book apart, basically, and revised it, biggest revision ever. I grew up as a baby bartender learning from this book, and it was a huge honor when they asked me to edit it. So 1,500 drink recipes in this really cool book. It is actually out of print, and the company that bought the rights to the book, they are not printing any more Mr. Boston Bartender's Guide ever. No other editions will be forthcoming. It is all digital. It is all online. So collector's editions, some are still left. Some happen to be in my stock, and you can actually go to my website and purchase a copy of the book, signed no less. So that is a little shameless plug there. Also, story of bitters. So this is really cool because we talked about the old fashioned, we talked about how it includes bitters, and it was that inclusion of bitters that basically made it an old fashioned. So this brings us to another trivia question. So let's go to trivia here. Here we go. This is worth 50 points. What US city is considered to be the birthplace of the cocktail? So use your chat function. What US city? You guys are good. Andrew got it right off the bat. Thumbs up. It is New Orleans. New Orleans is considered to be the birthplace of the cocktail. But, and there is a big but, I'd like to tell you the story of what made the Sazerac cocktail the official cocktail of America. So New Orleans is said to have invented the Sazerac cocktail. That is the signature cocktail of New Orleans. For those of you who've been down there, maybe you've had one. It is a great cocktail. And the story goes that there was a gentleman, a pharmacist, who emigrated from Haiti and opened up his own apothecary in the French Quarter in New Orleans. And back then, pharmacists would actually, where did I put my Angostura Bitters? Oh, right over here. Pharmacists would bottle their own bitters. It was used for medicine. Bitters were used for medicine. If you really look closely, you'll on the Angostura bottles, you'll see stories. You'll see things that look like old pharmacy labels. And they would prescribe bitters to their patients. They would say, take a teaspoon of my bitters. It will solve your stomach issues. So Antoine Peychaud was this Haitian pharmacist who emigrated and created and opened up his apothecary. And he had his Peychaud's bitters. We do have Peychaud's bitters in the back somewhere. I don't have time to get it right now. But it's a little red bottle, and the bitters are kind of a red tint. And if you think about New Orleans, well, pre-March, party, right? Party city. But if you think about New Orleans in the 1820s, throw in absinthe and opium, and I mean, it was insane. And that's really what it was like. And Antoine Peychaud would have big parties in the basement of his apothecary. And the story goes that he had friends playing around with different ingredients, a bottle of cognac here, his bitters there, sugar, water, absinthe, and they put it all together and they created this delicious cocktail. Everybody loved it. They called it the Sazerac cocktail after the name of the cognac, Sazerac cognac. And it literally blew up, went viral. However, it could be viral in the 1820s. Up the Mississippi by boat, up the Mississippi River, and then people got off east, west. And it became the signature cocktail. Now, the cocktail was around, right, before 1820, but the Sazerac is what popularized these ingredients and this as the cocktail. So we think of America's original cocktail being the Sazerac cocktail. A couple of people are asking, okay, Angelique says, what is my favorite party drink that can be made by the pitcher? Oh, yes. I actually, at this time of the year, I love playing around with, I actually have some here because I was making it earlier. I like using this palm juice and apple cider and rum or whiskey or both, and honey syrup and citrus juice. That cocktail, that is like a nice traditional punch style drink. You can add in some chai tea maybe. Then it will really be a punch because then it will have that spice element, right? What did I say punch included? Spirit, sugar, water, citrus, spice. Punch, 5 ingredients. So do a classic punch. If you can do a big ice, I can't even, it's the time of night where I'm starting to forget the English language. Blocks of ice. Use Tupperware containers and freeze the water and then just add that into your punch bowl or pitcher. So yes. Oh, and Holly says Benedictine tastes like cough syrup to her. And yes, it can occasionally, but Benedictine is a really nice French herbal liqueur, which has sort of elements of absinthe, anise flavors happening. Oh, and Holly says an ice ring. There you go. You take what is it, like a bunt? Is it a bunt pan? A bunt pan. Correct me if I'm wrong, folks. A bunt pan. It's fun saying bunt. Yeah, fill it with ice, and then put it in the freezer, and you've got a nice ice ring. You could also throw in some herbs, some fruit in there. Yeah, exactly. See, Holly, you and I were thinking the same. Okay, that's fun. Here's another quick trivia question, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, I'm going to put the Angostura Bitters back in their home. There are so many other types of bitters these days, right? We had the Underberg, but also this is one of my favorites, chocolate mole bitters. So many different types of flavors of bitters. I'll put the chocolate mole bitters back here too. Oh, that does not fit there. Okay, here's another trivia question, ladies and gentlemen. Ready? Here we go. This one is worth 20 points. What was Tom Cruise's character's name in the movie Cocktail? Use the chat function. What was Tom Cruise's name? Full name. Must be the full name. First and last name. Tom Cruise's character in the movie Cocktail. Anybody? Maybe. Maybe it's too old. I know. Etienne never saw the movie. It's not a very good movie. Yes, you got it. Brian Flanagan. Melinda says Brian Flanagan. Thumbs up. Yeah. If you've ever seen Cocktail before, you maybe agree with my take on it, is that the first 15 or 20 minutes are fun to watch because that's where they're flipping the bottles and doing the flair. And then it gets into like this really, really weird romantic drama, dramedy. There's not even any comedy. It's all drama. No, I will not do any flair bartending, although I will do something like that. There you go. That's my flair bartending. Alexis asks, do bartenders flip bottles in real life? Yes, go to Las Vegas whenever we can. And there are several flair bars in Las Vegas, and they're doing what's called working flair. Well, there are two different flairs. There's flair competition, right? Michael says flair competition, where they're just kind of doing a lot of different tricks and rolling it down and catching behind. But then there's working flair in an actual bar where they're, flipping the jigger or kind of flipping the bottle and doing these little flips and actually making you a drink, which is really cool. I like that. I had someone else ask a question. What's my favorite? So John, you're a gin and tonic man. What's my favorite gin? Well, I'm on an Empress 1908 kick. But there's so many different gins out there. I do like a really nice classic London dry gin in a gin and tonic and in a martini. You've got so many great brands out there, right? Yeah, I mean, many of them are really, really great. Okay, I'd like to do one. Paradiso. Holly says Paradiso in Barcelona. Yes, I have actually been to Paradiso in Barcelona a couple of years ago, and yes, they have amazing cocktails, and their bartenders are so great. And yes, they do some flair. And what they do is they actually do, like craft cocktail flair, which is really cool. Like I said, using the jiggers and yes, and the long pour. Exactly, I love it. I'm gonna make one final cocktail for you guys here, and I kind of have a sweet tooth. So this is a dessert style cocktail, and it's a little bit of an audible. I've messed around with this combination before. Let me just kind of move some of these wounded warriors out of the way here. This one is going to be a martini style cocktail, so I will grab my cocktail coupe, and it is going to be a dessert style drink. So I'm going to use these three ingredients. I have a blended Scotch whiskey called Cutty Sark here. I have this chocolate liqueur called Marie Brazard Chocolate Royale, French liqueur. And I have this Dutch caramel Van Gogh vodka. Okay, so let's go ahead and shake this cocktail. And I'm going to add some whole milk, of course. I'm going to add this cocktail I don't have a name for. Guys, it's a contest, basically. To the person who can tell me the best name for this cocktail, I'm going to ask for your advice. You are going to get a 2 thumbs up. 2 thumbs up to the best name of the named cocktail for this. Okay, so let's. Actually, well, I am in a bar and I do have running water, so I just kind of need to rinse out my shaker here. There we go. Oh, you're already starting. You're already starting. Andrew says could be baked cocktail. It's a good one. Deborah says sweet divine. Aaron says naming cocktails is difficult for her. I actually really like naming cocktails, and I think I'm pretty good at naming cocktails. So maybe I'll start to think about the name of this cocktail as well. All right. So actually, I'm going to use my cool Uncle Nearest jigger, and we're going to do 1 ounce of the Van Gogh Dutch caramel vodka. This is going to be an easy cocktail because it will be equal parts. I like a good equal parts style cocktail. Now the Marie Brazard Chocolate Royale. Again, 1 ounce. This is a really cool, thick and decadent cocktail. I used to do these events in New York City every year, which hopefully we'll be able to bring it back, called A Deliciously Decadent Evening of Chocolate and Cocktails. It was so much fun. Walk around tasting different pastry chefs, doing different chocolate and spirit-friendly chocolates and desserts. And then we would do cocktails to pair. It was so much fun. And here we go, our Cutty Sark. Look at that. Just like slides in. Cutty Sark. Yes, this could be frozen. Andrew says it could be frozen. Alexa says Cocoa Brulee, Ricky. John says Caramel Delight. Let's add 1 ounce. There we go. And last but not least, our dairy. You can make this non-dairy by doing oat milk or almond milk or soy milk. I have good old-fashioned whole milk here. There we go. We're going to give this cocktail a shake. Right? Fill it up with the ice. Fill her up. Pop the tin on top. Flip it around. How many seconds do we shake for? Oh, why not heavy cream? I'm just trying to watch my figure. But you can use heavy cream. Ready? 8 Mississippis. Here we go. Whoa. Whoa. 1 Mississippi. 2 Mississippi. 3 Mississippi. 4 Mississippi. 5 Mississippi. 6 Mississippi. 7 Mississippi. 8 Mississippi. Okay, there we go. We'll separate the shaker. Has a really cool little froth action. Yes, I'll run down the ingredients. Whole milk, Cutty Sark Scotch whiskey, Marie Brazard Chocolate Royale, which is a chocolate liqueur, and Van Gogh Dutch Caramel vodka. Okay, here we go. Just strain that out. This is a really nice, like an elevated chocolate martini. And as our garnish, I love these. I just get them in the supermarket. It is nutmeg, but in little chunks. And you can just put some fresh nutmeg, nothing better than some freshly cracked nutmeg on top. And these are some real maraschino cherries. Guys, don't use those bright red fake cherries. Use the really good kind of cherries. This is from a company called Filthy. They're out of Florida. And they come in these little individual packs, so cool. And then you just open it, and then you can add, look at that, you just open it, cool. And then I'll add my cherry. I'll just kind of plop it right in there. I love these cherries. Oh, these are the real deal black cherries, real maraschino cherries. This is a dinner buffet. Let's give it a little taste, okay? Yes, VC says cinnamon sugar rim, 100%. It's good. It's on the boozy side because of that whiskey. Well, mostly all alcohol. Not too sweet. I like it. Actually, a really good drink that would go with a dessert because it's not too heavy. It's really not heavy. It's light. It is like a real deal dessert. What would I sub in for non-whiskey drinkers? Rum would work really well for this. Brandy. All right, let's see what you all said for. Andrew says not to be a pedant, but it's pronounced maraschino. Maraschino. Yes, it's true, because it is Italian. So the marasca cherry, maraschino. But in America we say maraschino. Maraschino. How about I'll meet you in the middle, maraschino. I like this drink, and you know what I'm going to call it? I still don't know. Keep sending me your ideas. I like the real deal dessert. I like elevated sweet tooth, liquid Rolo, cocoa kiss. Yeah, I like these. I like all of these. You guys are great. I'm gonna have another sip. It's great. I'd like to do one last trivia question here because I really like this story and I like to talk about this story. Okay. Where are we? Oh, here. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, this one is worth 25 points. This famous author was known to drink his daiquiris as a double. This famous author was known to drink his daiquiris as a double. You got it right, Holly and Aaron and Lisa. Ernest Hemingway. Ernest Hemingway. They and we called him Papa Hemingway. He drank his way through the Florida Keys and Cuba. Loved a good rum cocktail, mojitos, and daiquiri. And he had his daiquiri a very specific way. The bartenders in Cuba specifically called him Papa Hemingway, and they called his drink a Papa Doble because he would have a double served over crushed ice. And he was diabetic, so he wanted his without any sugar, his daiquiri. So the classic daiquiri, rum, lime juice, sugar. That's it. Nothing frozen, no other fruits. He said, no simple syrup, no sugar. Instead, I would like maraschino, cherry liqueur, and grapefruit juice. That's probably worse for a diabetic, but hey, it's Papa Hemingway. And come to this cocktail has come to be known as the Hemingway Daiquiri. So if you go into a cocktail bar these days and you order a Hemingway Daiquiri, but he had it over crushed ice. And we were not making frozen drinks before then, right? But it was because of Hemingway that Mr. Waring, from the guy who created the first at-home blender, the Waring Pro blender, marketed his blender with a frozen daiquiri. He said, take Papa Hemingway's crushed ice daiquiri, put it in my blender and blend it, and you've got a frozen daiquiri. So that is sort of the creation of the frozen drink, really, with the daiquiri in Cuba. Here's a quick other trivia question. What was the 18th, or what is the 18th Amendment to the Constitution? What is the 18th Amendment to the Constitution? This is a fun one. 18th Amendment to the Constitution. Yep, you got it, Rich. Prohibition. Really screwed up the industry and our palates. We didn't know what a good cocktail was after. Promoted organized crime. And yes, what is December 5th, ladies and gentlemen? December 5th. And this leads me to the next question. What is the 21st Amendment? What is the 21st Amendment? The 21st Amendment. It was the repeal of the 18th. Michael, good job. Yes. Thankfully. And December 5th is Repeal Day. So we celebrate the day that Prohibition was repealed, December 5th. Great, great year. Yes, it was the Volstead Act that did it. That did it in 100%. And if we didn't have the 21st Amendment, I would not be here doing this. You would not be there doing that. We would not be anywhere drinking anything. So we're very thankful for the 21st Amendment. Ladies and gentlemen, that about does it for the cocktails and for this little class. I want to leave it open for a couple more questions. And before we actually sign off, I just want to remind you guys of the website and New York Cocktail Expo Online Week. So go ahead to nycocktailexpo.com/webinars for several more free webinars throughout this week, including how to make tropical cocktails. Yes, with Escape to the Tropics, the Tiki webinar. And also how to make the best Manhattan in Manhattan is December 5th with Melinda Maddox of Old Elk Distillery. You all can also follow me on social media at The Cocktail Guru. Here are a couple, here's another one. What is my recommended drink with a cigar? Oh, I was just talking about this with a friend of mine who just had a baby. Nice dram of Japanese whiskey with a cigar. I actually gave him a bottle of Japanese whiskey and I said, you should have cigars with this. So yeah, go ahead and follow me, shoot me an email. Our email address is cheers@thecocktailguru.com. And this has been an absolute pleasure. You guys are awesome. Someone is asking what's my favorite warm hot drink. Oh, sorry. I like a nice classic hot toddy. Whiskey, lemon, honey, and a citrus peel, lemon peel or orange peel. I also like what's called a caffè corretto, which translates in from Italian to correct coffee, which is an espresso with a little anise, right? Like a sambuca or a little absinthe if you want. Spanish. You guys are awesome. This is great. I look forward to being able to present more sessions and webinars and seminars. You can also catch me doing some online shows on the Cocktail Guru Facebook page, on the YouTube channel, the Cocktail Guru YouTube channel. Also, I just started a new YouTube web series called Cocktails the Grand Tour. So you should check that out. Go on YouTube, Center for Culinary Culture. YouTube, Center for Culinary Culture. And my premiere episode, the pilot episode is on there, and I did a Sazerac cocktail. It's so good, so you should check that out. Feel free to shoot me an email. And you can also catch me on morning television. I still do it remotely, New York shows all around the US. So yeah, this is great. You guys are great. Thank you so very much. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your evening. Keep following New York Cocktail Expo for some great free stuff, some great free webinars. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Cheers, everybody.